You're listening to the Art of Quantum Healing podcast with your host, Lisa Nadler. Each week we'll be welcoming divine souls who have overcome trauma, mental health addiction, and found next level abundance through mind, body, and soul connection. We will be going deep on one subject to teach and guide you. My mission is to help you high vibe, thrive with inner peace, passion, and purpose, all in the name of evolution. Welcome to the Art of Quantum Healing. Today I have the beautiful Robin Cotè. I love the way you say your surname, Cotè.
I love the way you say it better.
We're going to be going really deep on breaking free from victimhood and Ptsd. Robin, I just want to share a little bit about Robin before I bring her on to speak. And Robin started in film and radio at the age of 11, and she began working in television in the music industry not long after. Since then, she has been an on-air talent and producer for more than a dozen broadcast organisations. She's been a creative force in the world of music, sports, television, variety shows, and talent showcases, surviving staggering losses throughout her life, becoming a widow at 33 and losing her young daughter. She taught herself how to heal in spite of life's sometimes ugly dealings. Robin is a survivor, not only of loss but also of domestic violence, verbal and emotional abuse, rape and bullying, and has become an outspoken advocate for victims. Through all she has endured, victim will never be a word used to describe her. I love that, because we're not victims, we are survivors. I so thoroughly agree with that. She currently is a studio director for Star Worldwide Networks and hosts her own podcast, Get Real with Robin. Welcome, beautiful.
Oh my God, it is so good to see you. And you know, I have a new frame I always call not just survivors, but now we're thrivers.
Oh, I love that. Where did you
Not
get
just a
that from?
survivor. I don't know. One day I was in a conversation with someone and they're like, "You don't like being called a victim, do you?" I said, "Oh, hell no." I said, "I'm a survivor, but even more so, I am a thriver." So let's just look at it this way. Not only do we want to survive, but we want to thrive. So why don't we combine those two words? We're a thriver.
Love it. I love
Yeah, it
it.
just makes sense,
It
you
does.
know?
I love it. It's these two words I hate, and it's funny because when I did my first book, I called it From Broken to Brilliant, and now
Ooh,
broken just makes me fucking cringe. I'm like, nobody is broken. We're on this beautiful journey. It's amazing how you transgress. So broken and victim, I just don't like the words because victim means just it's got such a negative connotation around it, doesn't it? So I love
yes,
that.
it
That's
does.
friggin' awesome. So tell us a
Yes.
little bit about when you were in the throes of the PSD and the well, I was about to say victimhood, but now I don't want to use that word. When you're going through your journey at the toughest of times.
You know, I often say this many times in my life. I credit having my son, I had my son at 17 and my daughter at 18, and I lost my daughter due to circumstances surrounding my first husband. And I have often wondered myself how I managed to get through so much shit that life was throwing at me. But I credit that to being such a young mom because having divorced his dad at the age of 20 and being a single parent, trying to survive in this world and not, all these losses kept coming at me. And I'm just like, well, what am I, a magnet for death? Am I a magnet for all this garbage? And
Yeah.
you can't sit back and allow all the shit that's happened to you to continuously victimize you. And things might have been different had I not been a single mom. I can't really say that my trajectory was changed dramatically because that kid depended on me. He
Yeah.
didn't have his father around. He didn't have anybody around but me. So no matter what came my way, no matter how difficult it was to survive a lot of these things, I had to get up every day. I had purpose, and the purpose was getting this kid to his next stage in life of adulthood. And that was my responsibility and mine alone because no one was there sharing that with me.
Mm.
So, it I think a lot of the PTSD didn't really surface till much later in my life.
Yeah.
And the hard part is now as I've gotten a lot older, I'm 54 now, but when I really have taken a look back at the journey, I just masked everything.
Mm.
I didn't understand a lot by the way I was raised. I didn't understand what self-love was. And, like a drug addict will continuously abuse themselves, or an alcoholic, I did it a different way
Yeah,
because
you're,
I didn't love myself enough. So I ended up giving myself away more often than I should have. I thought friends with benefits was extremely healthy for me because they were not boyfriends. They didn't infringe upon my life with my son. They were kept
mm,
outside of the family, and they were just there for me wanting to feel something and be with somebody. And I didn't realize the kind of damage that was doing to me until just a few years ago. And you go through this process when you begin your self-love journey and you start to peel the onion layers back,
mm,
and then you try to be the old version of you, and you try to do that thing with another guy friend. And then you go home feeling sick to your stomach
yeah.
and you're like, what just happened here? And you realize you're in the PTSD realm. You're going through all these weird emotions, like, I could handle that so many years ago. Why is it such an issue
Mm.
now? And I think it was because, my son's grown up. I don't
Got
have
in
that focus
survival
of
mode.
raise. Yes,
Because you
I
go
don't
deep into
have.
survival mode. Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
you just live amongst the surface with relationships, but then when all that outer stuff is stripped away, like, my son being an adult now and not needing mom anymore to be there all the time, it's like all of a sudden, okay, this just doesn't work anymore. And
Yeah.
then you feel yourself going through a lot of this. And even 5 years ago, it's actually coming up on 6 in May. One of my best friends committed suicide, and I'm no stranger to death or suicide, but the big difference this time was I actually found the body. And
Oh, wow.
there was someone else there was someone else present with me when we found the body. And having gone through enough death, I was it's going to sound bad, I was the right person to find her. because
Absolutely. You could cope with it.
because yes, you're in control. You don't go up, you don't touch the body, you don't deal with that, you call 911. But the person that was with me experienced so much PTSD after the fact.
You know.
And I learned something, and he told me it was the best advice I could ever give him. I said, look, we saw her dead, we know she shot herself, but the thing of it is, she's never going to be able to do it again.
Mm.
The incident will never happen again. And once you can start formulating that in your own brain,
Processing it.
that the
Yeah.
yeah, and you understand how to cope with the PTSD, because you're always, I mean, I have visions of her. I've
Mm.
seen her dead. I've seen her, other ways too, spiritually. And just being able to understand that the incident can't hurt you anymore. It already happened. So don't allow yourself to be put back there. You can compartmentalize it to a certain degree. And it works the same way with trauma. And trauma is a scary thing,
Yeah.
especially like if you get in a car accident,
Yeah.
and it's really severe, then you have to step back into another car. But like everything else, you have to take your time with things, and there's no timetable for it. You have to just understand that you have to listen to your body,
Mm.
you have to listen to your heart, you have to listen to your mind. And if your body's telling you this isn't right, that's the first key thing, is this isn't right.
It's your
And
intuition
you
telling you that's your warning signs. You need to process it, because if we don't process it, then we keep it in our body, and every time we think about it, we see we're actually, our body doesn't know whether it's happening now or it's already happened. We're actually reliving every time we think about it. So when we can allow our body to start processing, then we're not sitting in that emotional turmoil. And it may be really fucking messy. It may be like, oh, good God, I don't really want to do this. But you've got to do it. You've got to allow your body to process what it needs to, don't you?
Yes, and I tell everybody, I say, look, you've already gone through the hurting pain.
Mm.
You've gone through that with the incident that happened, whatever it may be that's triggering you. But where you're headed now is you're headed through the healing pain. And it's just like you said, in order to get past it, you're never going to get completely over whatever it is. You never will. And, my husband died 20 years ago, coming up on 21. I'm still not over his death.
Mm.
I love him dearly still to this day, because we didn't have much of a chance for our relationship to work. We were together 17 months when he died. But the
Wow.
idea is my life is not over. From 33, my life is not over. I've had to live another 21 years after the fact. So what am I supposed to do? Curl up in a ball and kill myself and die because he's no longer here? That they don't want that. They know that
No.
it's hard for us to go on, but they want us to find something in life to enjoy. And
Mm.
as hard as a lot of those things are, you have to understand that the hurting pain is already done.
Yeah.
Whatever happened, the hurting pain is done. You move past it, you move through it. You
Mm-hmm.
don't ever get over it, because there's that lesson about forgiving and forgetting.
Yeah.
You don't ever forget, because if you forget, you forget the lesson. So when you carry those traumas, you have to be able to put them in your little backpack off to the side, just so that you have them for memory, but you don't carry them on your back, on your shoulders, on your mind, because it will disrupt every day of your life. And you'll become, I'm around people who live in the victim mentality, and it really pisses me off that even years removed from the actual incidents that took place, they continue to live in that mentality. For one, it gets them attention. And
Yep.
for two, it's like they feel like they have no existence without the
Yeah.
victim label attached. And it's like, how many years have you been attaching that label to yourself
Mm.
and not really giving yourself a chance to have joy in your
And
life?
it is a label. It is a label. I mean, the biggest thing with healing that I believe and that I have seen and from the work that I've done is that we can remember it, but we have to detach the emotions that are attached to it. Because when you activate the emotions within your inner world, that's when you actually are reliving it. If you can actually think about it and do it in a space from the heart, in a space that you don't actually have those emotions that lead you into the victimhood or the struggle or the all the different things that then you can actually have the memory of it, but not relive it in a trauma that's going to be trapped in your body, because it's all about the emotional. If you can attach that emotional, then you are free, but you have to go through the healing process to be able to be at that space. And this is the part that people don't want to go through, because it's fucking horrible. it's
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 ugly as
it's
hell.
ugly, but the other side of it is the freedom within. So when you were going through the ugly stage, how long ago did you do that? Was it?
Oh man, I thought years ago, I thought I had gone through all of that to be at that better place. But, in 2003, I met someone else that proved to me that I didn't. And
Mm,
I, again, spent 11 years in a very toxic relationship. And coming out of that 6 years ago, almost seven now, I was like, what the hell is wrong with me? I thought you had already worked through all this shit, that you finally found that spot. But, we attract what we still need to work on. So obviously there were a few key
yep.
components that I hadn't quite got through yet.
Mm.
And
That can be a
I feel
hard pill to swallow too, because you think, oh yeah, I'm doing good, I've done the work, I've done something, oh, this is really great. And then boom, you get fucking
uh,
hit in the head again. And you're like, hang on a minute, didn't I learn this lesson? Yeah,
yeah,
yep.
yeah, at 48, it hit me again, and then even worse, as I was coming out of that, I took on that general rule: the 5 people you surround yourself with are going to make you a better person.
Love
So
that.
I deliberately sat out and looked for those 5 people. Biggest fucking mistake I ever made, because then again, those 5 people who I thought were the most wonderful people to be connected with turned out to be narcissistic assholes
Oh,
that were all about themselves, all about taking credit for everything that any little tiny thing they did, they wanted to make sure they got credit for. And then one of them, who was a best friend for several years, she would verbally abuse me and attack me because she felt inferior to her husband and to me. So she would verbally attack me, then get him to fight with her. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, what the hell's going on? Then the next day, she'd bring me a small little gift, wouldn't
oh, that
apologize.
one
And
narcissist. Oh
I'm thinking,
God.
well, I'm going 30 years backwards, going, this is husband number one who would hit me and then tell me he was sorry the next day, bring me flowers and tell me he loved me, but it was my fault. And I'm like, why am I going through this shit again? So here I was at that point, being 50. And what is about 50 that things start changing? 50, 51, 52. And I'm going, there's got to be something that I got to do, because I'm the common denominator in this whole situation. Why do I keep attracting this?
Good
And
question.
I started eliminating people, eliminating the toxicity. I started doing everything I could for the inner peace of me.
Yes.
And it was like another 2-year journey to where anytime somebody comes at me from left field, that with that bad energy, I'm like, delete, block your fucking history. I will not allow you in my space
Yeah, your field is
because
important. Absolutely.
oh, we don't realize just how sensitive our energy is to people around us. This is why we're constantly warned about energy vampires.
Yep.
So when I look at my process, I say this to everyone, look, you're not going to ever be 100% perfect. We're all going to make mistakes. That's how we learn. But here's how life goes, okay? Even when you think you got this shit figured out, you're going to get a curveball out of left
The
field.
universe is going to
And
throw you something.
it's going to say you're not done yet, human, because you're not done until you're 6 feet under or your ashes in the wind and you're back on the other side. You're back home. Right now, this is where you're at. So
Yeah.
you have to take it upon yourself to. The thing about it is, you said the key word, and the key word is emotion.
Mm.
If we remove emotion, that's why they tell you take a breath.
Yep.
Do not react to
React.
somebody right away.
A
Step
victimhood
back out of the
always
situation.
reacts. When you're in victimhood or when
Yeah.
you're in struggle, you react because that's where you feed the fire. Yeah, and taking
Yes.
a breath, that's fucking brilliant. Taking a breath is one of the hardest things to do, but I always say that when something comes into my field, I wait 24 hours, then I
Oh,
respond because
wow.
I can detach
You're
from it.
you're
Well,
better than me.
not
You're
always
better than me.
24 hours.
I usually just yeah, I usually just kind of hang back and I'm going, because
Yeah.
there's certain situations, and people don't understand. This could come anywhere. This could come from coworkers, your best friends. This could come from family members, your significant other. And you have to just this whole thing about action, reaction, reaction, reaction. It just gets worse and worse and worse. And then the cycle continues to work.
Yeah.
It's so toxic
Mm,
that's why a lot of domestic violence situations happen
mm.
because emotions. I mean, 99% of the criminal activity between a couple with domestic violence is due to.
Oh. Oh, you've just muted yourself, Robin. Robin, it's just muted. For some reason, it's just muted. I don't know why. Oh, you're right in flow too. Oh, there you go. Cool. I don't know what was. You were right in flow too. That was beautiful.
Yeah, the damn phone call. I have my notifications
Oh,
turned off, but
of
all of a
course you can.
sudden the phone call comes in.
That's right. I'll
Sorry
just
about that.
write one down for the team so they can delete. Oh man, you were in flow. You were really getting into it then.
I'm a Scorpio, so I get fired up.
Oh, passionate.
Yeah, I get fired up.
Right.
And I'm not the get mad, get even type.
It's called passion, babe. Passion.
Oh, I love that.
All right, so we're talking about PSTD. You're right in the when people. Do you remember?
Yeah,
Yeah,
when
sorry.
people are going, the biggest thing with any reaction, if you ask any law enforcement officers, they'll tell you all the calls they respond to when couples are fighting or when people are fighting. It's all based on emotion. She did
Mm,
this to me. He did this to me.
they want to be
They
right.
said this. It's all about emotion. And man, if we could just the human element, and I'm one of my best friends in New York, he'll call me, like he called me the other day out of the blue, and he goes, I don't know what to do about this. I'm like, dude, listen, stop yourself right now,
Yeah.
breathe for a moment. Your son is a teenager now. You're getting shit from him. He wants this, and that, the other thing. I said, look, stop reacting.
Yeah.
You know better than that. Just, he goes, what is it with these fucking human emotions? And I go,
I
exactly.
know.
That's
Get me back
exactly.
into my
And
light body ASAP.
it's like, yeah, it's that human emotion
It is.
that we have to learn to control, because the only emotion that's really worth a damn in this world is love, because
Love.
that's the only thing we really take with us when we leave this earth is love. It
Absolutely.
transcends both worlds.
Yep.
But hate and anger do no good when it festers below the surface. Everything that you feel in your body can create physical manifestations.
Mm,
And when
absolutely.
you can't control your emotions,
Yeah.
and I mean, literally going after somebody and I will admit, I'm a Scorpio, like I told you. I feel like I could throat punch a few people every now and then because they get on my nerves. But Here's my funny thing. If I'm driving in the car and I get pissed off at traffic,
Yeah.
I will do it below my breath and I'll cuss somebody out. They won't hear it. And then I will look up and I say, I apologize, but my human is just an asshole from
Yeah.
time to time, and
And
she's got to let it out.
and
Yeah.
it's the other thing that people think that, oh no, I can't feel anger, I can't feel sadness, I can't feel like the deeper, like I call them the 3D emotions, but we actually do have to feel them to transcend what we're going through. So it's a real juggling act of not allowing your emotions to get in the way, but still feeling them, but feeling them from a perspective that you're actually sitting within your heart to feel them. And it's like it took me, oh fuck, 8 years of going through my journey to, and I'm still understanding. We're all still growing, we're all still learning, we're all still trying to to put everything together to be able to stay in this place. But the more you can stay in your heart without, and still feel the anger to process it, because if you don't feel those emotions, you don't process it, right? It sits in your body and you get pissed off and you get more and more. And this is what happens with victimhood, because you're not processing anything. You're just layering and layering and layering and layering all these emotions on, and all of a sudden it goes so far and you fucking explode, and you've got no, it's just got to all come out. And because it's not a healthy explosion. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you can actually
Right.
process the emotions from a healthful stage while still feeling them in this crazy human existence. It's a lot more healthier, and you transcend them, which is what we want to do. But God, victimhood, I lived in victimhood for 35 years of my life. I wallowed in it. I loved struggling. It was my place. It was brilliant. I knew it well, so I was addicted to
Uh,
it.
yeah. That's the sad part. I think with me, I didn't even realize I was still in a victimhood because I never saw myself that way. I didn't have a choice. Like I said, I had to get up and go to work and take care
Yeah,
of this kid.
survival. Yeah.
And and you don't even think about it, but I re-victimized myself by involving myself with people that weren't healthy for me, because I think my soul knew, you weren't done yet, Robin. You got to go backwards and fix that, because even though I thought I had gotten through that, it was the process of understanding and being able to actually see it. And I
Mm.
think the greatest gift we have is that vision to separate the emotion from the situation and allow ourselves to understand, yeah, you can experience every emotion out there, but you can't let the emotion control who you are. You
The
can't let
hardest
it control
part.
everything you do. That is the hardest part, because I mean,
Yeah.
we human beings are quick tempered, and I don't care who you are. I don't care how nice of a guy. I'm one of the nicest people in the world, but you piss on me.
Oh,
Oh, and
I'm a
Scorpios
Leo.
are known for, oh, yeah.
And I'm
So
a
I
redhead.
love Leo. Yeah. Yeah. And I've never been the get mad, get even type. I'm the kind of person that says, you know what? You don't deserve me in your life. That's how I'm going to get even with you. I'm going to walk away from you. And I literally now, as I mentioned earlier, I will not allow anything negative in my space.
Yeah.
I will come and shut it off. I have a beautiful job that I can go to that just relieves my stress. And
Mm.
I deal with people all the time. And once in a while, somebody will come in and they're not in the best of moods,
You
but I
feel the
tell them,
energy, don't you? You're like,
yeah,
oh, here we go. Hang
yeah,
on a minute. I need to get
but
out. Yeah.
even in the era that we have today where people are so fearful of touch, we need that more than anything. So I always tell them, look, when you come beyond those studio doors, you belong to me. And if you're having a crappy day, I'm going to give you a fucking hug and make you feel better,
Yeah.
because
Oh,
that's just
goosebumps.
me.
I just got
Yeah,
goosebumps.
because
Yeah.
the world is missing a lot
It
of
is.
that. And
That's why they're
and it,
segregating us, because we're missing that connection.
yeah.
It's the most important thing. I
And
totally
I can't be a part of that world. I will hug anybody. I don't, if you're coughing, just turn your head sideways. We're good. I, there's so, there's so much shit right now that people
Yeah.
have to deal with. There's so much stress. And I tell everyone, look, here's a little secret that I learned. And I always thought this was hokey stuff. The spiritual people used to talk to me years ago. I get it now, but 20 years ago, walk barefoot in the sand and the beach, walk barefoot in the grass.
Whatever.
I'm like, what the hell is
You're a
this
fucking
called
hippie on acid.
grounding? I'm like, I'm thinking, dude, this is so weird, But 10 years ago, I took my feet off at a park, my shoes
Oh,
off at a park, my
so
feet
good.
off. Look at that one. I took my shoes off, put it in the grass, and within 20 minutes, I felt an
Yeah.
electrical surge come up from the ground. And I'm like, okay, what the hell is this? There is some truth to that. And I thought it was all hokey BS,
Something
but
so simple, right? And it's like meditation. When
yeah,
people told me to meditate, I'm like, there's no way this fucking brain's shutting down. There is no way. Now it's the most, I mean, it doesn't always shut down. I mean, every meditation is different, but I used to think, oh, look, that's hippie woo. I'm not even going to go there. Now,
right,
I'm like,
right.
oh my God, this feels great. I'm at peace. I'm in my body. I'm centered. A couple of breaths. Oh, it's amazing. So you talk about you healing the inner child. And I just I want to sort of touch on that because I know it had that like healing an inner child is the biggest impact you can have within your life. I mean, it's you're going straight to the root of it. For you, because I mean, you look now and you go, how did I get into this toxic relationship, into this constant roller coaster of where I was? Was it a generational pass down, or was it something that like a past life, or how was that even in your field to be even like that at that time? Was there lessons you hadn't learned? What was it? Do you know? Have you just
Well, here's the really interesting thing about it. I didn't have the best role models growing up, right? And
mm,
6.5 years ago, I had to step in to help my parents. And there's a very weird relationship and weird dynamic there.
yeah,
But, I had to hold on to so much. I couldn't really say what needed to be said
mm,
because of the situation I was in. Even like today, I'm still taking care of my mom. But here's how I dealt with that. First of all, I used to do a lot of purging, a lot of writing, which got me to a certain level.
I love that.
But my father passed away in April of last year,
Yeah,
and the ability to communicate with the dead has been something that I've always kept a secret for many years until recently.
mm,
But being able to understand that the window to the other world is very thin, that veil is so thin that
valid.
even though we can't express what we need to while they're here in the living, we can still express it after they're gone.
Mm,
And when he passed away in April, I couldn't say anything to him before he died because it was pointless. It was always his word over everybody else's, and it didn't matter. So the day after he died, I sat in my bedroom, and I kid you not, for a half an hour, I literally had the most angry, soul gut wrenching cry, and I could feel it in my gut.
yeah,
And I just basically told him, you no longer have a hold on me. You know that I can communicate with people, and you have no permission to talk to me because you silenced my voice when I was 17 and I got raped. You wouldn't call the cops. You told me I deserved it. And from that point on, you've been nothing but a shithead father to me. So here's how this is going to go down. And I was able to say everything that I had held back for so long because I was
wow.
in the position to help them and take care of them when no one else would step forward. And I had to not walk on eggshells, but I literally could not say anything because every time I did, all kinds of arguing and fighting would ensue. And it just became a negative, toxic environment. And that's
Together.
why I decided, you know what? There's going to come a time when I can release this 100%.
What
And
healing.
journaling it out, writing the first book, Victim No More, expressing some of the stuff that had happened, and that was a relief. But there was still so much I held inside until last year when he died. And that was the most freeing thing I ever did. So for anyone that actually listens to this or watches this, even after they're dead and gone, you can say exactly what you need to say because it really has, it's like forgiveness. Forgiveness isn't for them, it's for you. And you have to be able to get to a level of forgiving them for what they've done because a lot of times they don't even know what the hell they're doing. It's part of their generational crap from years ago and they're just
Right?
bringing it forward. But it's up to us as the people moving forward
To
to
break it.
heal it so that generations moving forward don't have to deal with the same shit we've been through. And these journeys are
Absolutely.
not easy.
No, they're not.
These journey no, they tear you up. I don't even know how the hell I survived half the shit I have, but there was a reason for me to do so. So what am I going to do with that? I'm going to make sure future generations going forward, like my son, I broke that generational domestic violence curse with his father's family. He's
Yeah.
an amazing father to his own kids. And, he's still a man. He's still a schmuck sometimes, but,
Oh, we
because
all in our
that's
own
just,
way.
yeah, it's just, he's just a
Yeah.
guy, but
He's
he's
still
he's a
learning.
damn, he's a damn good dad. And that, when I see that, and he even asked me after his grandfather died, he goes, I hope my kids never look at me the way you and your brother look at, you know,
Saw,
your
yeah.
dad. And I said, honey, you got nothing to worry about. Those kids idolize you. They adore you. You're a damn good father.
Mm.
We do our jobs the best we can moving forward as the generational
Big
curse
heaven.
breakers. But, I think, in all honesty, that healing that inner child started years ago when I wrote the book. But then, as I transition into this side of taking care of them, I still had the tenseness in the shoulders, and I couldn't
Mm.
speak what I needed to speak because he continued to silence me until after he was
Yeah.
dead. He had no choice. And here's the beautiful gift, and this is going to sound so horrible, but like 2 years before he died, he ended up with a stroke, and he lost the ability to communicate and talk as
Oh,
cleanly.
isn't
And
that interesting? That's a little bit karmic shit coming down, isn't it?
that's the karmic shift, because he silenced me, he silenced my mother, he
Mother.
silenced his ex-wife years ago. So there is truth in that karma. And if you sit back and watch the events unfold, it may take, decades, it may take a few years, it may take a week, but you see these things come back around. And when he had that stroke and he lost the ability to talk, he barely could talk. We had to really pay attention to what he was saying, but he lost his voice because he took our voice. And when he was dead and gone, he's even tried to communicate with me a couple times, like yelling at me. And I'm like, you're not welcome here. Leave. I'm done. We're finished. Now you got to come back and repeat that karmic cycle with another family, because I'm done with you.
Yeah,
I finished it.
absolutely. Yep, yep.
So
That's
it's a lot
awesome.
of work to do this.
Oh, like
It's exhausting.
and you said before, it's like we're the first ones. A lot of us are the first ones to break the generational patterns, and that's I always say, why did my mum not do more work on this? Why is it up to fucking me? Why is it me doing this? But then you can look at the other side of the coin. Is thank goodness I am. Like I can't have kids, so there's no generation that's going to carry on for me, nor can my husband. But I know that this is the end of a certain like cycle for me. And then when I come back, if I come back, in
Yeah,
my
I'm not coming
I
back.
don't want to come back. I said that, I'm not coming back.
No.
I'm done because apparently I had 8 kids in another life, and this is why I don't have any kids. I'm like I've fucking done my kids. All right, this is my
Hey,
time.
let's make an agreement right now. You and I, when we meet on the other side, let's hang out and stay there.
Absolutely. One of
We'll
my
keep
really
each
good
other from coming
friends,
back.
one of my really good friends, she's 2 years older than me, and she said to me the other day, she goes, "It's your fault." And I'm like, "What's my fault?" She goes, "That we're here." I'm like, "How is it my fault?" She goes, "Well, you went first, and I had to follow." I'm like, "Oh, for fuck's
Oh,
sake." That was so
oh.
cute. So past life regressions is something that helped you a lot.
Yeah, I got into that a couple years ago, which I wasn't really sure what to make of it.
Hmm.
But then it started opening my mind to what was going on in this lifetime, because the guy that I just divorced 7 years ago, I
What was
actually
it?
killed myself over in a prior life.
Boom.
And I'm
Boom,
like,
boom, boom. Yep.
holy
It's so intertwined, it blows your mind, doesn't it?
oh, I'm like, I had to go through 11 years of hell with that son of a bitch just because I killed myself last time. I'm like, damn, can you tell
Right.
me anything else I need to finish out before we finish this lifetime? And it's
So
just,
true, isn't
oh
it?
man,
It's
it's
past life
scary as
regressions.
hell.
You're right. It's not to go back and see, oh, I was this and oh, I was that. And all that. It's to understand what's happening a lot of what in this lifetime because we do. Where we finish this life, we start in the next life. So if we're still in the deep of the wallows of allowing, like for me, the victimhood, and I was sexually abused like 4 times during my life by 4 different
Oh,
people. So that was my karma. That was my circles that I was living in. So and like every single one of them I don't it's funny I don't regret because they've all taught me and they've helped me to bring me to a space of now I can do the proper healing for it. Now I can bring in the passion and the worthiness and know that I'm worthy of love and instead of using sex as a toy and all that sort of carry on. But for me, going back into one of my past life regressions helped me to understand why I was a person, why, a lot of things of why I was now. And it does. I really think it's not to go back and go, oh, this is, and oh, it's to understand parts of what's happening now, the cycles that we keep ourselves in. So I love that you did that. It's just,
oh. I found out so much because I actually looked at 3 prior lives, and The second one I looked at, I was actually dating a guy after I got divorced 7 years ago. I dated a guy 20 years younger than me. That didn't last long, of course. We know what that's all about with
You need
them.
lots of energy and to
But,
look good for that shit.
but you know, it was so funny because we would always make plans, and after he got off work, he was supposed to come over, and then I'd sit here waiting and waiting and
Oh,
waiting, and he would be a no show, no call, and then I'd hear
oh,
from him a day or two later. Well, it comes to, come to find out that was a past life thing. Here we are, like in the Laura Ingalls Wilder set era, Little House on the Prairie, where he promised he would come back, and he left me, and
didn't.
I ended up dying in my 30s, being a person who never got
Wow.
married, never had kids, and I took care of my sister's kids with her husband after she died of cancer. And here I am on my deathbed with my nieces and nephews around me, and my sister's husband. I died a virgin, never got married, just took over helping him with the kids. And I'm like, oh, now this explains it. This guy, and I knew our names and everything. And I actually told him, and he was very understanding with it. And I said, now it makes perfect sense. And guess what? I'm not going to sit around and fucking wait for you anymore. Now I get
Dude,
it.
that was that light bulb moment, and you broke that. So,
Oh,
boom, cord cut. Let's move
yeah.
on. Lesson learned.
Because you think you're so stupid sometimes when you think you have it all together, sometimes you don't. And all these little things start popping up, and it's like,
Yeah.
where the hell is this coming from? But again, it's that whole thing where people come back around from your past lives and you have things to work through. And here's, the craziest thing, and I'm sure you know about this, but soul contracts. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
damn,
Why
we
did I
agree to
sign
all this
this
crap.
one? What
Why
was
do we
I
sign up for
thinking?
this? It's, and then you have people say, are you nuts? Why would someone sign up for that? I'm like, dude, this is called the school of life. We come here
Yeah.
for education.
Every
But
day's a
yeah,
school
I'm with
day,
you.
right?
Oh, I don't want to fail any more classes, man. I'm kind of done. I joke with them all the time. I said, I know I'm going to live to my 90s. I already know this. It's predetermined. I've known it for a long time, unless the earth blows up. And I'm still okay with that because I know where we're going.
Oh God,
But
yeah. I'm not scared
I
of
joke all
death.
the I joke all the time. I'm like, let me ascend to the next level. I'll be the best inspirational spirit you got on board up there.
I'm ready to be a guide.
Please don't. And everyone's like, well, don't you miss sex? Won't you miss eating food? I'm like,
Yeah, you got
how the
no
hell would I
idea.
know?
Hell
I have
no.
no idea what the hell is over there. I don't know
The
what's
amount of
there
love
until
that's
I
going to
get
come
there.
out. I
Oh,
love
no. This planet is hard. This life is hard. And, you see so many people who just give
Make it
up.
harder.
And it's like, and it's like, even at the point once in this lifetime, and somebody screamed at me in my head to not do it, but I actually got drunk and put a gun to my head.
Mm,
Again, here we go, school of hard knocks. I'm like, wait a second, sober I would not have done that. But then
yeah.
this voice said, don't do that. And I'm like, there's nobody here. So obviously they intervened because they knew I was on
Yeah.
that path. And this was
Yeah.
before I knew I had committed suicide in my prior life. And I'm like, okay, so it still
Oh,
goes through you. And
yeah.
it's like, wait a second, they intervened and said, don't. And I've had people
Not
say, oh,
your
that's the
time.
voice of God. I said, I don't know if that's the voice of God. I'm not going to say that. That could be one of the dead people that were friends of mine that are telling me. It could be my angels that are watching over me. I don't know who it was. I will never claim it was the voice of God because I don't know whose voice it was. It was just loud enough and penetrating enough to sober me up like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what am I doing with this thing in my hand? I would
Yeah.
not do that, and
Funny,
it's,
I always used to say, like, I always used to sit there because I tried to commit suicide a couple of times as well, and I had a drug overdose also. I mean, I went into the addictions for my coping mechanisms and the numbing stuff. And when I started coming out of it, when I started on my journey of understanding, I was like, how can someone so fucking intelligent and so smart and such a strong woman? Because I was brought up by my mum really fucking hard and strong. Like, you be strong, because she was a single parent, and she was really, because she was always in, of course, she was always in victimhood and struggle, and I used to sit there thinking, how can somebody that is strong and smart end up doing what I've done? Logically, it didn't make any sense. And then I started unraveling it. And same thing as you, like, trying to commit suicide. I mean, that's crazy shit. You know what I mean? So it's
yeah,
really interesting how you can start to understand this is part of your journey, and you have to unravel the parts of why it is and do the healing process, will take you beautifully to a side of, and like I still go through my messy times. I still go, oh my God, I'm on the friggin' bathroom floor in the fetal position in the shower going, what the fuck, clearing more stuff. But it's part of it. It's just absolutely part of it, and we have to allow ourselves to go through it. Otherwise we will sit in the same shit.
And I think so many people are so afraid, and they do use numbing, whether it's food, sex, drugs, alcohol, other things that are not good for you. We do that as the comfort feeling. We avoid all that pain and that hashing it up. And like with friends of mine that have gone through NA and AA, they talk about the 12 steps, and you have to go make amends and make this inventory of all the shit you've done. That's where a lot of it really starts. You don't have to be an addict. You don't have to go through a 12-step, but if you sit down and you start unloading that shit out, writing has always worked for me. Therapy never did. Every time I went to a therapist, they wanted me to assess their shit. They were unloading their shit. And I'm like, I'm spending how much money so you can tell me what's going on in your
Or you
life?
keep talking about the same stuff over and over, and that's because you haven't
Yeah.
dealt with the emotion of it. You're fucking creating more trauma in your body. Yeah, I love that you wrote. That's such a good thing for people that are listening. Get it down
Oh,
on paper, process it, because
yes.
you can have emotions coming through your pen. It is such a
Oh,
healthy thing.
e-
Oh my God.
even more than that. And if you go to a therapist, they'll tell you this exact same thing. I started doing this when I was a teenager because I didn't know how to deal with my rape, and I didn't know how to deal with a lot of shit. And
Mm.
I sat up on a mountainside and just started writing. But here's something better. You can write a letter to these people, right? You can write the letter, print it out, type it up, write it down. You don't send it.
It's for
You
you.
can tear
Mm.
that
I
fucker up,
burn
put it in a fire pit and burn it.
burn it on
Yeah.
a full moon, I say. Be
Yes.
gone. Yeah.
And that there is so much you can do for yourself that doesn't require involving other
Yeah.
people, that doesn't require spending money.
Uh,
Just sit down, even if it's just, a text message you send to yourself. I don't suggest using text because you might accidentally get brazen and send it to the person, and then you got to deal with more shit.
Especially
But, just
well, depending on what coping
use
mechanisms you're doing. Another one I like,
exactly.
Robin, is to put a chair in front of me and visualize the person sitting in there like you
Ooh,
did with your dad, and actually talk to them and actually process it and tell them, and I always have a pillow because every now and again you want to scream into the pillow to
yes,
process the emotion. It's great because the minute you get into the side where your emotions are coming to the surface, you're removing trapped trauma from your body. So you're freeing
yeah,
up a space in your body that you can fill with love and with new beautiful memories and new emotions, and this is the hard stuff, right? This is the stuff where you're really opening yourself up to receive, but you're not going to receive the stuff that you've been receiving because you've removed that stuff from you, and you're allowing more love and joy and kindness and happiness to come in. And it's so beautiful.
yes,
I love this. It's really interesting. And I read on your website, and you said, "I will not let my past define me, but I will use it to refine me." Do you want to know what my
yes.
saying is? My past is
Say it.
my past does not define. Oh my God. My past is not. I'm not my past. Oh, I can't even think of it now. My past does not define me. My future does. It's so
I love
similar.
that.
So similar.
Yes,
It
yes,
my past year. It just means that we need to stop living in our past. We need to stop living in the things that have been controlling us, because what's in the past you can't control it, but if you keep living
mm,
in it, then you keep staying in those same friggin' patterns. So I love
yes.
that
The
you
past
will not
controls.
refine me. I love that. It's brilliant.
Yeah. And the biggest thing too is I try to let everybody know, as we touched on the physical manifestations of what you're holding in. A lot of times when people get cancer and they don't understand where it comes from, a lot of that is just holding in the stress. It's one of the biggest things. And
Yeah.
here's the weird thing. When I was with that last husband for 11 years, I developed a cough at night that was so bad that they thought I was asthmatic. They couldn't even figure out what was going on with me. And when he
Very
was
startling.
gone, we ran a business together. So he was gone during the daytime and I could breathe cleaner air more or less. But
Yeah.
when he would come home, at night getting into bed with him, that cough got so bad. I was like hacking, and you would think I had lung cancer because I was a smoker, but no. And I didn't understand that. But when I got away from him, I mean, he moved out finally when I filed for divorce. The house was there by myself, with me in it. And I'm like, I can breathe again. And I started to realize just how powerful that was, because that was a physical manifestation of what I was walking on eggshells in that house. My voice was silenced once again, being verbally attacked and verbally abused every day by this man. And the pattern had repeated itself with being silenced. So when I got away from that, I realized just how bad that stuff plays on you physically. And I felt like I was 60 years old when I was in that marriage. When I got out, I felt like I was 25. And it does a world of good when we understand energy and how it transforms, because that's the only thing. We never die, we just transform. The energy always stays there. And everything is energy. Everything we touch, everything we hear, see, smell,
Yep.
everything, and the
Everything.
people around us. And it just, they could never figure out what was going on with me. Every time I'd go back to the doctor, they kept trying to give me inhalers. They told me to take this, take that. And I'm like,
That's
nothing's
why people are
working.
so freaking reliant on pharmaceutical. It was your throat
Oh,
chakra. Your throat chakra had
yes.
years and years and years of being closed, right from your dad. Your dad squashing your voice, dad, and then all through your life, your throat chakra has been closed, and generation
Yeah.
before that, and generation. So of course, it's in the end, it's going to go. Well, fuck you. I've had enough of this. So if we can understand listening to this, like you manifest disease in certain parts of your body that need to be healed. I know for like people that have a lot of heart attacks and heart issues, they've got things around love that they need to deal with. Your gut. You've got stuff in your power center. For me, it was my sacral and my solar plexus. I had so much
Mm.
sexual abuse that I was trapped in my body that it was manifesting in my gut, because that's the area. So your chakras, have so much power, and when you heal them and when you allow them to be freely flowing, like look at you now, you're just completely talking your truth, you're owning yourself, your words, it's such a fucking game changer. It's a game changer. People
Oh, it is.
say
It is.
chakras to me and I'd be like, which they're just energy center. I mean, you call them energy centers, call them whatever the fuck you like, whichever's going to make you feel better, but that's what they are, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh
it's,
yeah. And
oh
the greatest fear as a human being, we fear judgment from others. And until we finally figure out we need to be, number one, comfortable in our own skin. And
yeah.
number two, don't take things personally because it has nothing to do with us. And number three, don't worry about the judgment. Be yourself. Who gives a shit who you want to be yourself.
Because they're
If
just
anybody has
worrying
any,
about themselves.
yeah, if it's all about projection. If they're telling you and they're judging you, they're afraid to look in the mirror and deal with their own shit. They just want to put it on you and
Correct.
make you feel and look bad. And until
Yeah.
you get to that
Boom.
point, there's such a huge level of freedom. You see the meme all
Yeah.
the time when you get about that age and you just like, fuck you. I don't care what you think of me. I'm gonna be me. This is
Yeah.
who I am. And if you don't
Yeah.
like it, you don't have to watch me. You don't have to
Yeah.
listen to me. You don't have to follow me. Go away.
Which would
It's
have
that
been so
simple.
liberating for you, from being somebody who, your dad basically kept you in this, kept you small, and then the
Both
people in
parents.
your life kept you small. So it was like, well, hang
Yeah.
on a minute, I can be whoever I fucking want to be. I don't have to live my life through somebody else. And projection, it's really like everything is a mirror. I believe that when even somebody is projecting on you, when someone's projecting on me, I will stop and go, I know this is about you, but what is the lesson for me right now? Is there something that I need to heal? Is there something that I need to look at? And sometimes that's a really tough pull because you're turning it back on you. But when you can really do that from a place of openness and like curiosity and, just gaining more knowledge, then you can find so many things that you can be like, and you don't have to go into the wallow into all the stuff on it. But sometimes when you just have the realization, it transcends. It can be as
Yes.
simple as that. The healing journey doesn't have to be that messy shit. It can be as
Ugh,
simple, oh, I get it. Okay, that's what I do. That's a pattern. Awesome. I release that. That's it.
that's
So
it.
there's so many different levels to it, isn't there?
Oh yeah. And
Oh,
the thing we have to remember, there's two things every day. Practice the pause and just breathe.
they're the
That's
two
it.
hardest.
That's so easy to do, but as human beings, we
Oh,
find it so difficult to do.
yeah, to master it, absolutely.
Yeah. But you get to a good place when you finally get there and realize that it really isn't about you. It's about them trying to project. And you just have to, it's
Hold the space.
I deal with yeah, I deal with it every day. And it's like,
Yeah.
you know what? I'm just that old saying, turn the other cheek. There's some truth in that.
Yeah, I
There
never
is some
thought
truth
of
in
that.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true,
there's some
because it's
truth
not
in that.
about you. Just and the minute we retaliate, isn't it? That's when it starts. That then because when you have a circumstances, how you retaliate is how it's going to end up, and how it's also
Hmm.
going to be stored emotionally within yourself. So if you to turn the other cheek, then you're not taking it into your field. But they may need to project on you, and that's okay. But if as long as you don't take other people's shit on, your life will be so
Hmm.
much more freer.
Yep, just act like the boomerang. Come at me. Boing. Doesn't work.
Send it back.
Doesn't work.
With love. The
Right.
with love
I
part.
don't need that.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on. I've really enjoyed this, Robin. You're a honey. You're an
Oh,
absolute honey. Is there anything you'd
I-
like to leave the audience with? Anything that just sort of like intuitively flows that you think that they need to hear right now?
the biggest thing is, like I said, number one, don't take anything personally because it really has nothing to do with you. Remember to breathe and remember that you have to practice self-care. Self-care is the most important thing, and self-love. We've never taught that to others. We weren't raised that way, but you have to take that time out for yourself, even if it's 5 minutes. Go put yourself in nature, walk in the grass barefoot, go on the water if you're in the beach area, let your feet feel the sand and the water, run a hose in the backyard and run through it. We used to do that. I mean, just even in the shower, just envision that white light raining down on you with the drops of water. Just do something for yourself every single day, because no one else is going to take care of you. You're responsible for your own happiness. You may have others around you that add to that, but again, you are the person that has to take care of you, because you are your own responsibility and only you can make yourself happy. So, live your best life possible and don't allow the bullshit
Yeah.
to knock you down every day. Just get yourself back up, dust yourself off and say, okay, I'm coming for you, life.
I love
You
that.
know?
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I freaking mean, sister. I love it.
Ah,
Oh, I love
you are
it.
you are such a bright soul and a bright light. So I am really grateful that I got this opportunity to hang out with you. This is so
Yeah.
cool.
Oh, I got
Oh
goosebumps.
my God, such a beauty, such
We're
a
going to do it
beauty.
again, I know.
I would love to. Such a beauty.
Yeah, you too, gorgeous. I really, really,
Oh,
your energy is just divine. I love it. So easy, like me. You're like, yeah, whatever. It's just so, it's
yeah,
that fire.
whatever.
I used to be like this.
Yeah,
I was like, whatever. It's all happening for me, not against me, remember?
yes.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. And that was another episode of The Art of Quantum Healing. And I look forward to reading your reviews. Make sure you subscribe and do all the juiciness. Mwah. Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel and help us grow the community by sharing it with your friends. I am your host, Lisa Nadler, and this is The Art of Quantum Healing.